Well, good afternoon. How are you? This is a little different than usual because I'm on this boat at sea going down the coast, the East Coast, and it's getting warmer all the time, so I can't give you a temperature, and I don't know that Thomas Jefferson ever did that. That is, that he tracked the temperatures as he traveled across the Atlantic himself, and we're not traveling across the Atlantic. I would do it while I'm walking here, but the noise is so great from the wind, which at one point was at 24 miles an hour. So, what's the news? Well, I think one of the headlines is the isolationism that's becoming apparent in Trump's regime. It's like a dictator. He thinks he can tell everybody what they should do and how they should do it and when they should do it. So he's already crossed swords, if you will, with one border, Mexico, and another border, Canada, about what he's going to do with tariffs. And during the campaign, you may mention, it was in a general fashion certainly described as what would be a tax on the people. But where he's really going to get hurt, I suppose, is it's going to be a tax on businesses and so forth, because he's trying to rearrange the international landscape in such a fashion as that the United States will be so isolated by increasing tariffs and, in his mind, forcing others to buy American because he's using these tariffs. So now it's gotten to be a bigger problem because he's endangering our currency, because how could a man who cuts his teeth on debt not be considered a risky chief executive of the United States of America? So he's threatening BRICS, BRICS, which is a multinational financial group, including China, among others, who combined among themselves for certain development advantages. And now Trump is upset because to protect themselves, they're thinking of changing the U.S. dollar as their reserve currency and as their currency more generally. Trump has in exchange said he's going to impose a 100% tariff if they do abandon the United States dollar as a reserve currency. Now, there's a notion in economics, certainly international economics, of comparative advantage. And I'll talk about that in a second. But what he wants to do is to end these countries selling in the United States. Well, that's really something. Do you think that's going to affect us here? Do you think that's going to affect other businesses? Do you think it's even possible? Do you think the House and the Senate will support it? Now, the notion of a comparative advantage or competitive advantage is an advantage over others producing a particular good that can be produced at a lower relative opportunity cost. They call it an autarky price, autarky. I think it's autarky. And ages ago, I had an opportunity when I was working on the Hill to spend some time with Michael Porter. In fact, I was on a panel with him, and he wrote in '85 a book which was about competitive advantage. And if Trump read it, forget that. That's never going to happen. But think about it. You have an advantage over someone else. You have an advantage over many other countries, say, and you're able to sell without compromising individual human rights or whatever. You have the minerals, for example. You have a certain skill set. You have whatever. So these nation states, if you will, have a competitive advantage over others. Now, so how do you blunt that? You blunt that by putting in obstacles like tariffs, forcing people to buy a more expensive product made in the United States than made someplace else. Anyhow, that's obviously going to be another example of what it's like for Mr. Trump to learn how to live in the real world. Now, and I think we should also ask ourselves, while we're waiting to know what the actual vote was for Trump in this recent election, winning a plurality, not a majority of the popular vote, in other words. Keep in mind that this is reflected in other ways in how he has to deal with the Senate, because he has to Well, he has to deal with at least 4 senators who can upend any proposal that he has. McConnell is one. He's done nothing to build bridges with McConnell, and I don't think he could because of his philosophy that is so disagreeable, rightly disagreeable to McConnell. Collins, of course, from Maine, Murkowski from Alaska, and John Curtis is a new senator that is not. That's 4 solid senators that can move it. Now, it depends on where the Democrats go, of course, but there's a very good possibility on many issues that the Democrats, and at least these 4, and perhaps others, will side up against the president. And I've mentioned this now a couple of times in prior walk-in talks or stand-in talks as opposed to the sail-in talk, which is that it's really one thing to say that you have control of the Senate and the House. It's quite another then to pass legislation that works to your advantage. So it's going to become the process of how, if at all, Trump can maintain the power he insists on having. So I think that the fact that we have so many participants in this is an advantage to us who disagree with these policies. And change is a very difficult thing. Everybody wants change until you define it, and then they don't. They may not want to go back to what it was, but they don't know where they want to go. And so this kind of chaos that he's created in order to become a monarch is going to work against him in the days ahead. In the meantime, I'm enjoying it as it gets warmer. It feels really good to be walking on a deck with the air. Holly and I are getting a break, and I'm doing some reading and thinking. Not that I don't normally think, but I think a little differently when it can be expansive and it's not on a deadline of some sort. So I look forward to trying to talk to you if I can, if the electronics are with me. So all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.